Hi, boys and girls. Miss L. Just wanted to say hello before we start our lesson today. Hope everyone's been staying safe, staying inside, or getting outside when you can. Today we're going to do an ELA lesson on a book called Anansi and the Talking Watermelon. And our objective for today is we will be able to identify how a character reacts to an event or challenge in the story. So we've done this a few times this year, especially with Chrysanthemum and how she reacts when students make fun of her name, and Lily's purple plastic purse when her teacher takes away her purple plastic purse, her shiny shoes, and her shiny quarters. So today I'm going to read a story with you. I'm going to share my screen so you can see it, and then we're going to talk about how the characters react to the events in the story. Bear with me. All right. So, Anansi and the Talking Watermelon. Now, this is retold by Katie Higgins and illustrated by Patrick Gerlard. This is a folk tale, and I know we've done folk tales with the Elves and the Shoemakers and the Snow Child, so this is kind of like those. Early one morning, Anansi the spider woke up to the sound of Possum hoeing his watermelon patch. Anansi peered down from the peach tree where he lived to watch Possum's slow progress. Anansi salivated at the thought of a meal of watermelon, his favorite juicy red fruit. Now that word salivated means like he's drooling at the thought of his food. When Possum set his hoe aside at midday to take a nap, Anansi snuck down from his tree for a snack. While Possum snored, Anansi shimmied down his fine silk web to the ripest watermelon in the garden. Okay, so shimmied means kind of like moves quickly down his web. He picked up a small, sharp stone to chip away at the melon's rind. He made a hole that he could just squeeze into. He gorged himself as the juices slid down his 8 spider legs. So gorge means he stuffed himself with watermelon. He ate as much as he possibly could. Just when Anansi about had his fill, he heard Possum stir. Possum will punish me if I am discovered, Anansi said to himself. He waddled to the hole in the rind, and one leg at a time he tried to pull himself out. He was so slippery he couldn't keep his footing. That means he couldn't stand up straight. He braced himself against the edge of the hole, but it was so full of fruit that he no longer fit. Oh no, I am stuck, he cried. Now I have to wait till I shrink back to normal size. Anansi laid his head upon the watermelon seed in an attempt to sleep. He tossed and turned restlessly. This is so boring. What should I do while I wait? As he pondered his next plot, pondered means thought about, he heard Possum at the far end of the row. I know, I will trick Possum into thinking that his melon talks. Possum came scratching with his hoe. As he neared Anansi's melon, he heard the sound, quiet as a mouse. Who is that? He asked. It is I, the watermelon, Anansi now yelled. How absurd! Watermelons can't talk, Possum said as he cradled the melon to his ear. Possum, you have never been a good listener. Watermelons have been talking since before you were born. Possum could not believe his ears and cried, Eureka! I must show King Bear the discovery I have made. Off he went, carrying the watermelon with Anansi bouncing to and fro inside. He met Raccoon rolling in the dust behind him. What's the hurry, Possum? Raccoon asked. I am bringing King Bear a talking watermelon, Possum answered, very proud of himself. Now I have heard everything, Raccoon laughed. You haven't heard me talk, Anansi replied from inside the melon to Raccoon's smart remark. Huh? What? Who said that? I did, said Anansi, really enjoying his trick. You are silly, Raccoon, for not realizing that more than animals have speech. Watermelons are more intelligent than you. Do you believe me now? Asked Possum. Yes, I do, Raccoon said. This smart-aleck watermelon is something the king would want to see. Along the path to King Bear's grand den, Possum and Raccoon came upon Gopher, Rat, and Squirrel. They each in turn laughed and pointed fingers until they heard the melon's strange little voice themselves. Before long, they all wanted to hear what the king would say about the oddity, so off they went. When they arrived, the king, a very grisly-looking bear, had just woken from his afternoon slumber and was a bit grumpy. "What is it?" he growled as the animals bowed before him. Possum placed the watermelon on a tree stump before King Bear. "What am I supposed to do with this?" the king asked, continuing before anyone had the chance to answer. "I do not need watermelons. I have acres of my own." "This one talks," they chimed in unison. Now unison means all together. King Bear refused to believe he had subjects from a garden patch. He demanded that the melon pay respects to him if the animal spoke the truth. The watermelon just sat there, mum, for the first time all day. That means quiet or silent for the first time all day. "What kind of joke is this?" the king grumbled. The melon remained silent. "I would be a fool to waste more time waiting to see your treacherous trickery," he snarled at the frightened animals. "You would be a fool not to wait," piped up Anansi from inside the melon. "Only a fool thinks watermelons can talk." "Fool, fool," King Bear roared. "How dare you call the king foul names?" And with that, King Bear picked up the melon in his paws and chucked it as hard and as far as he could. The melon flew through the air and landed with a crack and a thud. Splitting wide open, Anansi was free. He skittered as fast as he could past the peak back to the peach tree, where his morning started. "What a great day," Anansi rejoiced. "All of this fun has made me hungry again." He began nibbling at a large ripe peach above Possum's patch. Possum returned later that day with a sour look on his face. He picked up his hoe and started digging furiously. So furiously means madly. "Melons," he cried. "Next year I will grow something else in this patch. You watermelons are nothing but trouble. Perhaps you should grow more peaches," Anansi said with a mouthful of fuzzy fruit. The king is sure to listen to a peach. All right, so that was our story. And just to remind you guys, our objective for today was we will be able to identify how a character reacts to an event or challenge in the story. So like normally when we're in class, Miss L is going to model a few for you, and then I'm going to give you some to do on your own, which you can send to your teacher through either Class Dojo or however your teacher wants you to send it. So our first event says, Possum takes a midday nap. Now I want to think about what Anansi did when Possum started his midday nap. So if I go back to the story, which is what we should be doing, if I go back to the story and go back towards the beginning, because I know Possum took his nap at the beginning of the story, I'm going to read through. And down in this second paragraph, it says, when Possum set his hoe aside at midday to take a nap, Anansi snuck down his tree for a snack. So I didn't quite get what he was doing, so I'm going to read on just to make sure. I know he snuck down his tree for a snack. While Possum snored, Anansi shimmied down his fine silk web to the ripest watermelon in the garden. He picked up a small, sharp stone to chip away at the melon's rind. He made a hole that he could squeeze into, and he gorged himself as the juices slid down his 8 spider legs. So right there, I know that when Possum went to take his midday nap, Anansi So while Possum was taking his midday nap, Anansi snuck into Possum's garden and gorged on the watermelon. Okay. So our next event is Anansi hears Possum wake up from his nap. So if I go back to my story where I was, I know he gorged on this page. The top of this page says, just when Anansi about had his fill, he heard Possum stir. So what did he do next? He hears Possum waking up from his nap. So the next thing he does, that Possum will punish me if I am discovered. So I'm thinking that he might be in trouble if Possum catches him in this watermelon. He waddled to the hole in the rind and one leg at a time tried to pull himself out. He was so slippery, he couldn't keep his footing. He braced himself against the edge of the hole, but was so full of fruit that he no longer fit. Oh no, I'm stuck. Okay, so we know he got stuck, right? He tries to get out. He tries to get out of the hole, right? So Anansi hears Possum wake up from his nap. So I'm going to say he tries to get out of the watermelon but is so full he is stuck. Right? So that's what happens. He tries to get out of the hole and he's so full that he's stuck. So Miss L has modeled 2 for you, and you guys are going to do the last 3 on your own at home. Now you can either do this on a sticky note, you can do it on a piece of paper you have, you can write it in pencil, crayon, marker, whatever you have at home, but you need to answer these last 3 questions. Now I'll take a picture of this and post it on the website underneath the video as well, just so you have them all in one spot. And I'll read them to you right now, and we'll talk about the character that you guys are going to tell the reaction of. So Anansi is bored inside the watermelon. So you guys want to talk about what Anansi does. So what does Anansi do when he's bored inside the watermelon? Possum hears the talking watermelon. So what does Possum do when he hears the talking watermelon? Then the talking watermelon was silent for King Bear. Well, talking watermelon was silent. So what does King Bear do? All right, so that last one, you're going to talk about what King Bear does. Now, like I said, I will post this on the website. I'll post a picture of this and the video, so that way when you're watching the video, you know what you're looking out for. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend and a great week, and I look forward to seeing your work, and I know your teachers do as well. All right, I will see you guys later.